A cold wind swept through the grocery store parking lot as people hurried in and out, their arms full of bags, their minds full of worries. No one noticed the small boy standing near the entrance, gripping his mother's hand tightly. His eyes were wide, watching everything, as if he already understood more about the world than a child his age ever should. But what happened just a few minutes later would stop everyone in their tracks. And by the end of that moment, strangers who had never spoken before would be wiping tears from their eyes because of one brave act from a child who refused to stay silent. Before we begin, if you believe kindness still matters in this world, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Kindness Story Hub. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments, because your voice might inspire someone else today. It was a late afternoon in a quiet town in Ohio. The sky was gray, and the air carried that heavy feeling that comes before rain. Inside the grocery store, people moved quickly through aisles, grabbing what they needed, eager to get home before the storm hit. Near the checkout line stood Maria, a single mother in her early 30s. Her clothes were simple, slightly worn, but clean. She carried herself with quiet dignity, even though life hadn't been kind to her. Beside her stood her 8-year-old son, Ethan, holding a small basket with a few items: bread, milk, eggs, and a can of soup. They didn't have much, but they had each other. Maria carefully counted the money in her hand as they waited in line. Her fingers trembled slightly, and Ethan noticed. He always noticed. He had grown used to these moments, watching his mother silently calculate, silently worry. When it was their turn, the cashier scanned the items one by one. The total flashed on the screen. Maria's face fell. She was a few dollars short. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can you remove the eggs?" The cashier nodded, but before she could do anything, a man standing behind them let out an impatient sigh. "Seriously," he muttered loudly. "If you can't afford it, don't come shopping." The words cut through the air like a knife. Maria froze. Her shoulders tensed, and she lowered her head, trying to disappear. She had heard things like this before, but it never got easier. Ethan's grip on the basket tightened. His small face changed. The softness in his eyes turned into something else, something stronger. The man continued, shaking his head. "Holding up the whole line over a few bucks. Unbelievable." That was when Ethan stepped forward. His voice was small, but it carried a weight that made everyone pause. "Don't talk to my mom like that." The store went quiet. The man blinked, clearly not expecting a child to speak up. "Excuse me?" Ethan looked straight at him, his eyes steady. "She's doing her best. You don't know anything about us." A few people nearby turned to watch. The cashier stopped moving. Even the hum of the store seemed to fade. The man scoffed. "Kid, stay out of grown-up conversations." But Ethan didn't back down. "My mom works every day," he said, his voice trembling but determined. "She skips meals sometimes so I can eat. She never complains. And you think you can stand there and judge her?" Maria whispered, "Ethan, it's okay," but he shook his head. "No, it's not okay." There was something about the way he said it. Not angry, not loud, just honest. Raw. Real. The man shifted uncomfortably. People were watching now. Really watching, and then something unexpected happened. An elderly woman in the next line stepped forward. "I'll cover the rest," she said gently, placing a few dollars on the counter. Maria quickly shook her head. "No, I can't," but the woman smiled. "Please. Let me." Before Maria could respond, another voice spoke up. "I'll help too," said a young man further back, pulling out his wallet. "And me," added someone else. Within seconds, it wasn't just one person, it was many. People began stepping forward, offering help, offering kindness. offering something that had been missing just moments ago. The cashier smiled softly, her eyes glistening. "Looks like you're all set." Maria stood there, overwhelmed. She hadn't expected this. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, especially not kindness from strangers. Tears filled her eyes as she looked down at Ethan. He didn't say anything. He just held her hand again. The man who had made the comment stood quietly now, his face flushed. He avoided eye contact, clearly uncomfortable. But the moment had already moved past him, because something bigger had taken its place. As Maria gathered their groceries, she turned to the people around her. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to repay this." The elderly woman shook her head. "You already have." Maria looked confused. The woman nodded toward Ethan. "He reminded us who we're supposed to be." Outside, the rain had started to fall. Soft at first, then steady. Maria and Ethan walked out together, sharing a small umbrella, but something had changed. They weren't alone anymore. Not really, because inside that store, a simple act of courage had sparked something powerful. Over the next few days, the story began to spread. Someone had recorded part of the moment on their phone. It wasn't perfect footage, but it captured enough: the boy's voice, the tension, the shift, the kindness that followed. It was shared online, then shared again and again. People across the country watched it. Some cried, some smiled. Many thought about the times they had stayed silent when they shouldn't have. And slowly, something beautiful began to happen. Messages started pouring in for Maria and Ethan. Offers of help, letters of encouragement, stories from people who had faced similar struggles. A local community group stepped in and offered Maria a better job opportunity. A nearby school reached out to Ethan, praising his courage and kindness, but the most important change wasn't the attention or the help. It was the reminder. A reminder that kindness doesn't require wealth. It doesn't require perfection. Sometimes, it just requires one person, no matter how small, to stand up and say, "This isn't right." Weeks later, Maria returned to the same grocery store. This time, the sky was clear. The air felt lighter. As she walked in, the cashier recognized her immediately. "Hey," she said warmly. "How have you been?" Maria smiled. "Better." Ethan stood beside her, a little shy now, but still observant. As they moved through the aisles, something felt different. People smiled at them. Some even recognized them, but more than that, there was a subtle shift in the way people treated each other. A man held the door open for someone else. A woman helped another reach an item on a high shelf. Small things, but meaningful. At the checkout, Maria placed her items on the counter. This time, she didn't have to count every dollar, but even if she had, she knew something now that she didn't before. She knew that kindness could appear when you least expect it. And sometimes, it starts with a single voice. As they left the store, Ethan looked up at his mom. "Did I do the right thing?" he asked quietly. Maria knelt down in front of him, placing her hands on his shoulders. "You did more than the right thing," she said. "You reminded people to be kind. And that's one of the most powerful things anyone can do." Ethan smiled, just a little, and as they walked away together, hand in hand, the world didn't seem quite as heavy as it had before, because somewhere, in a simple grocery store on an ordinary day, a child had shown that kindness isn't weak. It's brave. It's contagious, and it has the power to change hearts in ways we can't always see, but can always feel. So the next time you see someone struggling, the next time you hear words that don't sit right with your heart, remember Ethan. Remember that even the smallest voice can make the biggest difference, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be the reason someone believes in kindness again.